Hi everyone. In this video, I will try to explain the four principles of object-oriented programming using Java. So we'll take this example of this class. It's called animal. It has this field name and this method it. So let's call it the parent class. Now we can use the first principle of object-oriented programming, which is inheritance, to basically reuse this method and fields in another class without the need to rewrite them. And we do that using the keyword extend. So we can extend animal. So when we do this extend animal, we basically give this cat class, all the methods and attribute in the parent class. So now if we go to our main method and we create a new cat. Okay, now we can use the eat method without the need to write it. So here we don't really have the eat method, but we have it in the animal class because we inherit it. We inherit this eat method because we extended this animal. So this is the first principle of object-oriented programming, which is the inheritance. The second principle I want to talk about is encapsulation. And using public keyword for for a field is not really a good idea because anyone can change this field. For example, if we go to our main, we can just cat.name, for example, and we can change it. And this is not really safe. We don't want to give access to everyone to change our fields. Instead, we want to go through what we call getters and setters. So the, the encapsulation principle tell us to use the private keyword. So we use private keyword for the fields, and we use uh, what we call getters and setters. So the getter is simply returns this field. So let's call it get name, and it simply does it return our name field. And for the setters, uh, it set our value. So let's call it set name, and it takes an argument and it does the setting for us. So now we can't change uh, the value of the attribute directly. So we don't really have the access to name. Instead, we have the access to name through the getters. And if we want to change its value, we use the setters. So this is the encapsulation principle. The third principle is polymorphism. And what I mean by polymorphism, we have actually two types of polymorphism. The first type is overriding. So we have this eat method in the parent class. We can go to the to the child class and we can override this eat method. So we override this eat method and we give it, there we go. So we can override it and we give it our own uh, implementation. For example, let's call it cat eating. And to make sure it's overridden, we use the keyword override. There we go. So now if we execute or if we use this eat method, we will get the one we have in our child. So if I use cat.eat, I will get cat eaten. There we go, cat eaten. So this is overriding. We can override a method in the child class. And now we will see the second type of polymorphism, which is overloading. And what does overloading do? It's basically we have the same method, but we change the argument. So let's say, for example, I want to add a new argument to this method. So let's add, for example, string dot name. See, and we can use this. This is called overloading. Overloading. So now, for example, let's use a name plus eating. So this is the second part of the polymorphism principle. And obviously we can use the both. For example, I can do eat and I can pass some parameter like uh, Carlos, for example. And when we execute, we get this one. So when we pass a parameters, a string parameters, we use this method that we overload. And finally, we will see the fourth principle of object-oriented programming, which is abstraction. Now, let's suppose I don't want to give this eat method a body because I don't really know what animals eat. So I can do that. I have the possibility to not give this method a body, and I need to use the abstract uh, keyword. So when we add this abstract method, with this abstract keyword, we don't have to give this method a body, but instead we can override it right here. And this is how we do it. By the way, I have an error because of this. So now I can achieve abstraction by not giving this method a body, but implementing the body in the child class. For example, right here, I give it its body. And it will work for sure because I implemented the abstract method in the child class. There we go, it's working. So this is the fourth object-oriented principle, abstraction.